What happened to the army of Israel at Ai? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Joshua on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing Joshua 7 verses 1 to 9. But before we do, let's read that passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Joshua 7 verse 1. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Joshua 7, beginning at verse 1. But the children of Israel committed a trespass regarding the accursed things, for Achan the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took of the accursed things. So the anger of the Lord burned against the children of Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Beth-aven, on the east side of Bethel, and spoke to them, saying, Go up and spy out the country. So the men went up and spied out Ai. And they returned to Joshua and said to him, Do not let all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and attack Ai. Do not weary all the people there, for the people of Ai are few. So about 3,000 men went up from the people, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai struck down about 36 men, for they chased them before the gate as far as Shebraim, and struck them down on the descent. Therefore the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell to the earth on his face before the ark of the Lord until evening, he and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. And Joshua said, Alas, Lord God, why have you brought this people over the Jordan at all, to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites, to destroy us? Oh, that we had been content and dwelt on the other side of the Jordan. O Lord, what shall I say when Israel turns its back before its enemies? For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land will hear it, and surround us, and cut off our name from the earth. Then what will you do for your great name? The Israelites have now taken Jericho. They completely destroyed the city, killed its inhabitants, and are now ready to move on. The next city they are to conquer is the city of Ai, which our maps tell us is about 25 kilometers or 15 miles west of Jericho. While this distance is not really that far, especially for us who have cars today, some might ask, why was Ai this distance from Jericho and not closer? Well, it's easy to see from our map that there is wilderness and hills on the way from Jericho to Ai, so that is the reason these cities were not closer. Scriptures tell us that Ai is beside Beth-aven, and on the east side of Bethel, which is why our map places Ai where it does. Now, many archaeologists place Ai at Etel, also labeled on our map, just northeast of where Ai is labeled. There are reasons why we don't place Ai there, reasons that we'll discuss, the Lord willing, in 5 lessons when we get to lesson 20 and the completion of the conquest of Ai. For now, we're going to accept that our map places Ai where it does. Now, just like it was with Jericho, Joshua sent men from Israel's camp in Jericho ahead of the army to spy out Ai. This was a reconnaissance mission, not only to figure out how big the city was, but how fortified it was and what the dangers would be in taking it. When the spies returned, they told Joshua not to let all the people go up, meaning the entire army, but just a few. They suggested 2,000 to 3,000, for the people of Ai are few. In other words, it would be a waste to send the entire army to Ai because they would not be needed. Militarily, this seemed like a wise move, for you don't need to send more troops than is needed to get the job done. And of course, with the Lord on their side, they wouldn't need the entire army in order to capture Ai. In fact, they wouldn't even need all the men that they were going to send, for the Lord can defeat any army with any amount of soldiers. But the Lord wasn't going to miraculously defeat the peoples of Canaan, so the number that Joshua sent seemed reasonable. But when these men went to attack Ai, they were surprisingly defeated. Now, this wasn't a total massacre of the army that was sent, for they lost only 36 men of about 3,000 sent, but the remaining soldiers were chased back by the men of Ai as far as Shebraim, which means the stones quarries on the descent of the nearby hills. This defeat caused the hearts of the people of Israel to melt and become like water, which was how they thought the hearts of the people of Ai would be, for that's how the hearts of the people of Jericho were. Wasn't the Lord on their side? Hadn't he promised them that they would defeat the peoples of Canaan and possess their land? Why then were they defeated? Well, the Lord would definitively tell the people in the next lesson, but we know that it is because of Achan, the tribe of Judah, and he had taken some of the accursed things from Jericho, that which was consecrated to the Lord and which should have been given to the treasury of the Lord. The Lord was very specific concerning these things. Israel was not to take them. Now, because Joshua didn't know this, he was confused and distraught. He tore his clothes, fell before the ark of the Lord, along with the elders of Israel, and put dust on his head, a sign of grief. What they do next, though, shows us that even Joshua, a man of faith, is susceptible to having weakness in faith. For that evening he cried out to God, asking why God had sent them over the Jordan to deliver them into the hands of the Amorites to destroy them. Oh, had they only been content with what was on the east side of the Jordan, then they wouldn't have suffered this defeat, and wouldn't have allowed the Canaanites and inhabitants of the land to believe that they could actually defeat Israel and scoff at the name of Jehovah. In doing this, Joshua was acting just like the rest of the Israelites did numerous times on their way from Egypt, thinking God was bent on destroying them. Instead of blaming God, Joshua should have inquired of the Lord as to why they were defeated, for God did prove through the defeat of Jericho that he was giving Israel the land. But lest we get too confident in ourselves, thinking we would have acted differently, how many Christians, when faced with adversity, would act the same way? When things don't go our way, or the way that we think they should have gone, how often do we blame God? It is true, God caused Israel to lose this battle, but it wasn't because he sought out to destroy them, but because of the sin Israel committed. How would God react to Joshua's complaint? We'll find out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Joshua chapter 7, verses 10 to 15, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.